In Afghanistan, there were celebrations yesterday as the country marked 1 year since the Taliban retook control. While in power, the group has cracked down on the rights of women and girls. Imtiaz Tyab has a story of one woman's restricted life under Taliban rule.
Well, women and girls across Afghanistan continue to fight for even the most basic rights. We spoke to one 25-year-old activist. A warning now, some of the details of her story may be hard to hear.
Tamana Paryani's screams pierced the night in her quiet Kabul neighborhood when armed Taliban intelligence officers started banging on her door. The women's rights activist filmed the ordeal on her phone, broadcasting to the world as she begged for help. We met Paryani at a safe house as she tells us how she and her 3 sisters were arrested that January night.
The only weapon I had was my camera. I knew I had to speak out, despite how dangerous the situation was. I did it so that I could show the world what the Taliban are really like, what kind of group they are, and how they seek to forcefully silence women.
How long were you in prison for?
For about 1 month.
And how were you treated?
Cruelly. They treated me disgracefully. They tortured me using cables, pipes, and whips. As they were torturing me, they would record it. It was a terrifying experience.
Paryani says she was arrested because the Taliban thought she was organizing protests around the country against their latest decree that the Islamic headscarf, or hijab, was now compulsory. Stories like Paryani's aren't isolated. According to Amnesty International, the Taliban have, quote, decimated the rights of women and girls in Afghanistan through a campaign of harassment, arbitrary detentions, and torture. Abdul Qahar Balki is the Taliban spokesman for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
We spoke to women's rights activists. They talk about torture, waterboarding, and other forms of abuse.
We absolutely reject it. We do not engage in torture, waterboarding, or other practices that the United States has or is engaged in across the world.
So these women are lying?
If indeed their cases were true, the government would take the appropriate actions to address them.
Paryani says while she was in prison, there were times when she contemplated suicide.
Every time I thought about taking my own life, I'd think about the future of my 3 sisters. If I'm dead, what will happen to them? But the Taliban were forced to release me. They couldn't kill me because I recorded my arrest.
What do you think the world needs to know about the Taliban today?
That the Taliban have money and resources, that they have food and they have drink. But the people of Afghanistan, they are drowning in their own blood.
Now, Paryani says she will do whatever she can to fight for the rights of women and girls, no matter the risk. Vlad, Nikki.
Imtiaz, important reporting. Thank you. And with us now is Natalie Andrews. She covers the U.S. Congress for the Wall Street Journal. We want to talk to her about a new report House Foreign Affairs Committee Republicans are releasing on the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Natalie, thanks for joining us. What new details are we Thank you for being here. What new details are we learning from this report?
So there aren't a lot of details that may be surprising, but it's a real look at what happened. We are learning the numbers behind really how the Biden administration prepared for it. And the report is scathing. It's critical. It says that the Biden administration did not prepare and did not anticipate what it should have anticipated, and which resulted in the chaos and the failure to evacuate people in an orderly manner as Afghanistan and Kabul was collapsing, and how badly the withdrawal happened.
So the Republicans on the committee are alleging that the Biden administration, as you say, failed to adequately prepare to exit the country. But how are they backing this claim?
Yes.
That's, I think, key. And what's the administration's counterargument? I don't think that the right counterargument would be, well, it was President Trump who actually set the timetable for the withdrawal. But what are they saying?
They do note that President Trump made an agreement in February of 2020, with the Taliban that did set this process moving forward. And that is one pushback from the Biden administration. They also feel like this is something they had to do, that they wanted to end the war in Afghanistan, that Americans did want to end this war. They wanted to end the conflict. However, people uniformly did not want to end it in such chaos. And we've seen that with Biden's approval numbers. Whenever you talk to voters who have changed their mind about Joe Biden, they often cite the Afghanistan withdrawal. One number that jumped out to me in the report was how few personnel that the Biden administration had at the airport working to evacuate people. They had 36 immigration personnel, people to help get visas, people to help organize the immigration out of Afghanistan. 36 personnel, which was about one immigration official for every 3,400 people that needed to get out. And in a matter of days, you can just imagine if you had to take care as one person of 3,400 different pieces of paperwork, how impossible it would be. And that is human lives. And that resulted in a lot of chaos at the airport.
Natalie, what does the report tell us about the number of Americans and Afghan allies left behind in Afghanistan?
The report talks about how there were 800 people, American citizens, left behind, as well as thousands of translators and people who had helped the U.S. government while the U.S. was involved in Afghanistan. And while many of those people have since been evacuated, there are still U.S. citizens trying to get out of Afghanistan. As of last month, according to the report, it was about 84.
And so going back to the memo from the GOP, which has been called by the Biden administration partisan, they say it's riddled with inaccuracies. So this withdrawal from Afghanistan, I mean, it speaks to sort of a larger issue. We had a United States Army colonel on yesterday who talked about the failures from successive administrations, from President Bush to the current one, made in Afghanistan. Does it even address that, sort of the bigger picture? So many lives lost, so much blood and treasure spent.
It does look at that. I think one thing we expect to have happen is if Republicans win the House majority in November, as many prognosticators expect, that will give Republicans and Michael McCall, who organized this report for the House Republicans, that will give them further investigative powers. They'll be able to subpoena various officials. McCall himself said that the State Department did not cooperate with their efforts to investigate here. So they want to launch a further investigation. They would like to look deeper into this. And certainly if they win the House majority, they will have subpoena powers. And I would expect them to use that to look into that. And yes, the Biden administration will likely push back. They will still be in the presidency. And they have defended their process on this. They have talked about, while they didn't expect Afghanistan to fall in the way it did so quickly to the Taliban, this was something that was part of a larger goal and a larger mission that many people did want to see the conflict end there.
All right, Natalie Andrews, thank you very much.
Thank you.